Yes. Please, one and all. That's usually how this starts. Everybody comes up, they get seated, and I usually have to say, guys, one more time, Avenged Sevenfold, but I don't. For those keeping score, that was twice. You instinctually gave them the one more time, and now we just did it again. All of it merited. Welcome. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on this record, on the tour, on everything. How you guys doing? How you holding up?
Doing great. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, right?
All these people came out.
Right?
Yeah, thanks
Surprised. Thank you.
It's fun.
Yeah, you guys are used to large crowds turning out. You had a show last night in a pretty big venue, right? How did that go?
Well, let's get it straight. It's not necessarily our crowd. There's a band called Metallica that played after us.
Yeah.
So
Couple of young bucks.
But we did have a lot of Avenged Sevenfold T-shirts and people screaming along. So that felt good.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, it's hard to tell at home, and I've made this comment several times, but this is actually a massive space. There's 20, 30,000 people here right now.
Yes.
And, yeah,
Don't
modeled
pan that
after
way.
the Rome, the Colosseum is what the space is. But guys, so last night, an incredible show. When you play a show that size and the crowd becomes that large and you see all those shirts, what's that vibe like? What's that energy like compared to some of the smaller places you played maybe earlier back in the day when you have like 50 people in a room? Now you've got a couple thousand, 100,000. How does it even feel at that point?
Go for it, Zach.
I think you channel the same energy that got us here in the first place. You know, when we started out, we were playing our hearts out for 5 people, 10 people, 50 people, and all you have to do is remember where you came from. You get on that stage, you remember how lucky you are, and channel that inner youthful Avenged Sevenfold. Have fun. I mean, we can't go out there and out Metallica. It's their show. But what we can do is just have a blast up there, and I think we are. And I think, you know, our fans help pump up their fans, and you know, it's pretty awesome.
Do you guys, this is not the first time you've been on a tour with Metallica. You've been on the bill before a little while ago. Do you ever get, the dumb question, you ever get tired of hearing those guys play live? I mean, that's got to be a real treat to be on the road with Metallica, right?
I think the whole atmosphere is pretty surreal. Every night, seeing 60,000 people packing in a stadium, and and when Ecstasy of Gold plays and their intro starts, it just gives you chills every time. So I've definitely been in the snake pit every night watching, and I can't see myself ever not doing that. I'm going to do it every night. It's great.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, down at the snake pit, that sounds great down there, by the way, too. We've been going there every night, looking up and seeing the band that I first went to a concert was Metallica, my very first concert.
Well, that's what I was
now I'm playing with them. It's pretty cool.
He has bad parents.
Yeah, you're living the dream, right?
True.
Living the dream, right? You're playing with Metallica. When you started out many years ago, this was one of those goals, one of those aspirations. One day, man, we're going to play with Metallica. It's like you're doing it. You've done it several times.
It was a goal, and our next goal is to do MetLife by ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. I think
So-
that's...
With these great fans, maybe someday.
Without
we're
question,
doing
I'm
that
pretty
next
sure
year,
that's
right?
in the cards, man. What were...
We actually want people to show up, too.
Well, yeah. Oh, you didn't mention that part.
Yeah, there's got to be people there.
I still think you could do it. I'm still
Thank
with
you.
you. What were just some, back in the day, did you guys ever cover early on, like some of your first covers as a band? Do you remember were any of them Metallica songs?
Oh, you're always learning riffs. I think
Yeah.
everyone of our generation was probably learning Sandman.
Sandman, yeah, that's.
I mean,
go-to,
just
right?
like the earlier generations were learning Smoke on the Water. You know, it's just a classic, easy riff to learn. Pick up a guitar and you learn that, and then other bands we'd learn Pantera, Metallica, stuff like that. Growing
For
up.
sure.
I don't know, Zach, you're a guitar player. What were you
do you
learning
think,
besides punk rock?
What's on your mind, Zach?
Yeah, man.
Open up, Zach. This is a safe space.
Yeah, but obviously you got to play Metallica songs. Growing up as a guitar player, the problem is those guys wrote so many great riffs. There's not a whole lot left for us, you know.
Yeah, how many times did that happen where you're like, I got a really cool idea, and someone's like, that's for whom the bell tolls?
I'll tell you what. Between Metallica
that
and
didn't happen
Pantera,
at all.
Metallica and Pantera, pretty much, they wrote all the great riffs. Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
they beat us. So now we got to write stuff like Exist, which is so.
Which we're going to get to,
fucking
by the
hard.
way. Yeah, we're going to talk about how
Just
that
to try and separate from the pack.
I usually, towards the end, I'll pull some questions from Twitter, but this one was really on topic, and I thought it was great. At A7X Brazil fan, and I got to read it out, even though we all know what that means. But they wrote, being back with Metallica after, I don't know, what is it, like 10 years or something like that. Do you think back of that first time you guys got to play with them compared to where you're at in your career now, and like what's different, what's the same, like has anything?
Well, Brooks is here.
Yeah, Brooks is here.
Hi.
And I think the first time we played with them, it was a lot more hostile.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We played Mexico City with them, and we got so many pesos thrown at us. And Zach got hit in the eye.
Not enough to pay for anything, but quite a few.
I think I got a shot of tequila from it, though.
Well,
I think- so-
we played 3 days in a row, and the first day, I got hit in the face with a battery. We went up there. We thought we were just going to go out there and kick ass. They were not nice. The next day, I came on stage with a bottle of Don Julio and started handing out shots, and they liked me. So, note to self: make
True
friends
story.
first.
And there was, I called someone out in the audience in the first night, and remember, like half the audience turned their back to us, and they're all flipping us. Oh yeah, it was.
They literally
Listen,
turned on you.
these are Metallica fans, and they're hardcore, and if you got to earn your stripes, and we definitely are in a different spot now. So that's a big difference. But we do completely. We're cognizant of the fact that when we go out there every night, we're trying to win over people that wouldn't necessarily come to an Avenged Sevenfold show.
Yeah.
You know, if we did our own show here, there would be like 1/5 of as many people. It wouldn't even be close. So there's 40,000 people there that are skeptical of us. And so we need to go show them why our fans like us and what we do. So that's kind of the goal in this tour. So that gets your blood pumping a little more. Then it's easy to go out there and headline a show that everyone's there for you because you have your fans, everyone's having a good time, you're all singing together, it's great. But when you got to go out there and earn it, it definitely, there's some nerves that we haven't felt in a long time. So
No
it's
question.
cool.
And you're doing that on the back. You guys were just coming off a European leg, right? You were just
Yeah.
doing a tour out there,
Yeah.
and on your turf with your set with all that stuff, and now
Yeah,
you're
in
over
our
here.
playground, yeah. And then now we're just thrown out there.
Right? That's part of it. That's what keeps it fresh.
It's
and why
good
you're
when it
doing
goes
so
good.
long. Yeah, well,
You know, it's definitely, we've had some little powwows after the shows, and we've been excited because we know that we've maybe turned some new people on to Avenged Sevenfold.
yeah, for sure. I would be remiss if I didn't, on behalf of everyone here, say congratulations to Sinister Gates and the new baby. Celebrating baby Gates. Which is awesome. Because I was going to say, that's one of the big differences, too, I'm sure, for the last time you guys played with them, is a lot of you guys have kids now.
We all have
we
kids.
know
Yeah, you have kids.
That was the last. He was the last one holding out. But
Yeah, we almost have
Well, now.
almost enough for a baseball team.
Yeah,
seven
it's getting
boys between us.
baseball team or a boy band.
The true
hoping
Avenged
for boy band.
Sevenfold. seven boys. And
Well,
a
my
boy
son
band.
told me the other day that he's going to take the name Avenged Sevenfold, and he needs us to change our band name. So he's almost 5, and he's already telling me
Nice. Well, he knows what he wants.
I'm over it.
He's
Yep.
going for it.
Totally.
You got to admire that.
Yeah.
Speaking of knowing what you want, and yes, you're right to be impressed by that segue, I want to talk about this album, which is clearly composed and written by a bunch of guys that knew what they wanted to do and knew what they were making. This is your first concept album, right? We can call it a concept album.
Yeah,
I
the
think
concept
so.
kind of got tagged by the press, but it was definitely conceptual in the way that it was made. But we weren't trying to make, a Tommy or we weren't trying to make a concept record that was necessarily a concept record in terms of like storyline. But there's obviously a bunch of cohesive elements that all work together.
There's a clear through.
Yeah.
There's a thematic thing
Yes.
happening here. There's obvious different themes and stuff, which I guess begs the question: was the goal to make not necessarily a concept album, but to have this cohesive theme? Were there other themes you guys thought about? What was it about this theme that led you to this record and how you guys got here?
Well, I don't know if at the beginning we weren't thinking about space and artificial intelligence as necessarily working as a concept, but obviously it all plays into like human elements and some of the bigger questions we have. And the way I always was able to kind of piece it together was artificial intelligence may be the answer to us exploring more into the cosmos. So for me, that kind of always tied together. And I've read a lot of books on both subjects, and the human brain probably isn't going to figure out things quick enough to actually explore or to get outside of this little bubble we're in here in our solar system. So intelligence from another source might be the answer to that. Something might be able to figure it out for us. And so that's why it all kind of played together, and we were able to make all these songs that kind of deal with different aspects of the human condition and the human, story, and where we're going.
And the way you spoke to that so eloquently, obviously, I anticipated that based on the lyrical content and all that. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but for you, was this an album a way to get Matt to stop telling you about AI because of all the books he read? Was like, let's just get it out of your system, man? Or no, were you kind of intrigued by the theme as well, and you were looking to do things similarly sonically in a musical way?
Definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
Same way. You know, we often like after writing sessions we'd be sitting around and just talking about it. You know, we quickly discovered that we all were kind of into the same things. We were all reading the same stuff and watching the same shows about it and everything like that, and sitting around a fire at this guy's house and just talking about it. And then we realized that we had this common idea.
Sitting around a fire sounds kind of
Pondering.
What? Hey, sit around
Sitting
a fire,
around a fire
you know? Yeah,
under
everyone's
blankies
been in front of a
together.
fire. Piece of
To be honest, though,
Roasting marshmallows,
Yeah,
and
you know.
sticks. Just think it's an adorable night.
all
at the
these
house.
guys actually know a lot about this stuff, and we just have discussions. So it wasn't all me, but like I was actually more enlightened by the conversations we would have every day about different things that everyone was bringing to the table. Like, oh, do you know about this? Or have you heard about this theory? Have you read this book? So a lot of it was that, and there was the U.S. elections were going on, and that was just so crazy at the time. Like, just what was going on in the world was just so wacky that we were having a good time with that as well.
Yeah, thank God we're through with the wackiness, right?
Oh yeah,
We made it through.
It's all done. Huh?
Thank God we're on the other side of the wackiness. Oh.
So you basically had this weird environment where every day we're watching CNN would be in the background with another crazy headline, and everything was just so crazy that it made for a really interesting album. I think we reflected that pretty well, as artists should. The time we were writing this record, we'd sit there and talk about all these things, and the music got weirder, and the lyrical content got crazier, and now we're here. And then we decided to go and release it without promoting it. So.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit because I want to talk about what led to that decision. But also, speaking of decisions made, you guys co-produced with Joe Barresi, who did like, did I say it wrong?
No, you said
Breezy.
breezy.
Cool. Breezy.
Easy breezy.
Yeah, and he worked with Coheed and those guys and stuff like that. I mean, talk about people that churn out concept albums, like every one of those. So was that part of pairing up with him, like, hey, we're doing something with this cohesive theme, let's get Joe in here. He's worked on these kind of records before, or I believe you worked with Joe before on a record?
Yeah, this was my 8th record with him, so I did about 7 Bad Religion records with him, and he's the best. I mean, he doesn't say much, but when he does speak, it's usually profound, and, you know, there's a lot of, you're right. So, but yeah, he just gets the best tones, and he understood the angle of this record, and yeah, I couldn't say enough great things about him.
Joe was kind of a happy mistake, or not a mistake, what would it be?
I think that's what his mom said.
Ooh, sick burn.
And when Brooks
I'll be at
talks,
the
you wanna
Holiday
listen.
Inn down the street. Next
Brooks is
show's
working on
at
his Type
11.
5 for the Comedy Cellar, and
Mistake is definitely a wrong word, but we, because we were in a lawsuit with Warner Brothers, our old producer, Mike Elizondo, works under Warner Brothers. So we couldn't use him. So we were like, the record was already written. We were ready to go in the studio, and all of a sudden we have no engineer, no producer, nothing. So Brooks brought up the idea of Joe, and we're thinking, oh, he does Bad Religion records. And I looked him up, and I started really educating myself on Joe and seeing they did Tool records that I love, and Melzins.
Queens of the Stone Age.
Queens of the Stone Age, great sounding records. So we're like, well, let's talk to him. And then we almost didn't do the record because he has a dog, and I'm allergic to dogs. And I was like,
I thought you
This
were
is a true story, actually.
it's a true story. Like, I call him and I'm like, dude, can you just leave the dog? And he's like, I can't. Dog's coming to the studio. I was like, well, then we can't do the record. And he's like, well, then I'm not doing the record. I'm like, really? Is this really? I told him, and he's like, that can't be. You guys are pulling my leg, right? I'm like, seriously, he won't leave his. But we worked it out. Where I wouldn't do vocals, I would stay in the car
What'd you do with
and
the
warm
dog?
up my voice, and then run in the studio, record my vocals, and then run out. So
you would sit in your car.
that's for another session.
You'd sit in your car, radio on,
I'd
warm
drive
up,
up to LA, warming up,
AC
getting ready to
blaring,
sing.
getting yourself in the zone.
Getting
And then
my-
would he
doing my
like
thing.
text you like, all right, dog's in the crate.
He's all vocal. Mike is ready to go, and I would
Turned out,
just
we're
run
rolling.
in and yeah.
Just running and drop a take.
It's a sweet dog too.
impre-
I'm not allergic to dogs where I can't be around them. I just can't sing to my full potential if I feel allergies.
No, 100%. Yeah, your instrument.
I don't hate dogs.
It's by-
I love dogs.
That's going to be the takeaway. That's the thing people are
know.
tweeting right now.
M. Shadows hates dogs.
Shadows hates dogs. Exclusive.
I love
No,
dogs.
not at all. Not the case. I want to go down the line and ask a couple of quick, specific questions to you guys individually real quick because we only got a couple of minutes left before we turn over to audience Q&A. But Zach, your name, Zachy Vengeance, I was doing some research. It stems from a desire to get back at those who may have doubted you back in the day, is what I read somewhere, right?
That was probably the same
is that
Wikipedia that said that I'm the world's first six-fingered guitarist.
All right, I'm not going to ask you about that then.
No.
We won't
Seven
talk
fingers.
about the 6 fingers. No,
I'm gonna get those bastards one way or another.
so let's start there. Is that not the actual origin of that name or why you chose the name?
You know, to be honest, a lot of people probably don't know this, but that was my clever take of trying to be like, you know, the cool bands that like put their last name into their band name, like the Ramones or, and I was like, I can't be Zachy Avenged. I can't be Zach. I didn't want to be Zachy Sevenfold. I think you called yourself Matt Sevenfold for a while.
Probably did.
Because it was like the cool hardcore thing.
It was
to
the
do.
thing to do in the hardcore scene back in the
That's what we did. So I
late
was thinking,
90s.
You know, avenged. I was like, vengeance. I was like, oh, cool, vengeance. But no, really, I just want to get back at everybody that really.
Well, I was going to say, staggering fan base and stadium shows aside, would you say you've achieved that goal at this point?
I always go out there and let them know that Zachy Vengeance is coming for them.
That's pretty amazing. John, I was checking out the earliest or the most recent rig rundown I could find for your gear was like a 2013 thing, and it was like 2 MXR DIs. I'm gonna get a little gear heavy for a second. I hope nobody minds that and that doesn't bum anybody out, but it's not. We're gonna go deep for a second. I saw the 2 DIs. You had like a chorus pedal in there, a noise suppressor, and I was surprised because your tone is friggin' huge, and it does such a perfect job. I think especially when you have 2 ferocious guitars over it, you have to find and carve out your space and not encroach, but complement that space. And I'm wondering, how often do you, if at all, refresh that rig, add new things, take things out? How often are you reassessing the tone, especially when you're going into a new album?
I mean, it does happen pretty much after every album that we do. I'll refresh it a little bit based on what the sound we were going for was on the album and try and recreate it as much as I can in a live setting.
Yeah.
But I do run, in addition to those DIs, there's 2 Galen Kruger heads. One of them's doing a clean thing, and one of them's doing a dirty thing, and then the front of house guy blends it together so that it fits in there nice.
That's well, it sounds amazing.
Thank you.
And I was going to ask where you're getting that low end, the dirty side when it had to be blended because it's never too abrasive and it's always got a nice full round sound to it. So I guess that's the secret. That's how you do it.
That's what I'm doing. Thanks.
Got it.
Wow,
Awesome.
It's nice.
It's real nice, real smooth.
Brooks, you.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Not just to this stage, but to this band, man. I know you've been playing for a little while. You got this record, but I, for one, personally, am very happy you're here. Your performance
Thanks,
on
man.
this album is incredible, dude.
Thank you
and
very
I'll hold
much.
for applause.
I won't. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I got a chance to see you a couple of times when I saw you play with the D back in the day. You did some Tenacious D shows, and you were friggin' mind-blowing then. And, of course, all your time with Bad Religion, stuff of legends, man. But I don't think we've had a chance on a record to hear you play the way you're playing here before. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's from what I can tell. Was that part of what got you into Avenged Sevenfold in your mindset? You were like, this is exactly the outlet I'm looking for. This is the kind of music I'm ready or I want to play and put out there?
Yes, to all of the above. Cool. I think with Bad Religion, I was able to spread my wings somewhat, but obviously, how I'm playing now in this band is totally different. And one of the bands that came closest to the style in the past was a band called Infectious Grooves that I played in, and that was their introduction to me back in '95. So, but yeah, I mean, just the fact that, I have so many more colors to paint with and all the styles that I studied growing up, I'm now able to apply, in a band format is very rewarding.
For sure. And Bad Religion was never a slow tempo band by any means.
No,
you were
no.
always playing aggressive. You were playing fast. You were playing hard.
I had to
think,
get a lot of massages.
Yeah, I imagine. Has the massage count increased since you've come over to Avenged? There's a lot of technical stuff you're doing
I get
now.
2 a day, morning
Nice.
and night.
That's who that person was back there in the green room. That's what
Michelle.
Yeah,
That's
Michelle.
Michelle. And then Rhonda's going to be later.
They're very nice people. And then Matt, I wanted to talk to you, man. Your vocal tone, it's evolved. Every record, it gets a little bit further. And I was reading somewhere, unless this was the same shitty Wikipedia article, but it said that for a long time now, you've had it in your head since the early days that you were going to transition slowly away from screaming and focus a little bit more on singing. And whether or not that was a plan, that's kind of happened. And I was wondering where that decision came from, if that was a longevity thing, if you knew that if you kept screaming, eventually you were just going to tear everything apart, or if it was also an artistic thing of like, this is a direction I really want to go in and I want to work us there over time.
Well, first off, it was, always the artistic direction. We were looking at all of our favorite bands growing up, and none of them necessarily were screaming bands. We just were part of a scene that we enjoyed at the moment, but it was kind of creating a bubble, that whole like emo hardcore thing that was going on, the Hot Topic shirts, the whatever it is. And we just felt that probably wasn't going to be something that we wanted to be involved in for when we're 35 years old or 40 years old or 50 years old. We just didn't feel like that's where we saw the band being able to grow and do whatever we wanted to do. And I'm glad we made that decision back then. And vocally, this is the first record where I'm singing from a completely different place, but it's a much healthier place. Before I was using, for all the techie nerds out there, I was using a lot of chest voice and now I'm using a lot of stuff from a different spot, like kind of getting above it all, using more of a head voice, and then bringing some of the chest into it when I need it. But it's a much healthier spot, which means I can sing longer, I can play much more shows without having to cancel anything, and it's just a much better place mentally for me to be than just blowing it out every night and then just going, I don't know if I'm going to wake up with a voice tomorrow. So that's kind of where the evolutions come from. And then I just like the tone of it better. And I think everyone in the band likes the tone better. So we're just going with wherever life takes us right now.
Yeah, well, it's taken you to a pretty badass spot. We're gonna, in just a moment, we'll turn over to audience Q&A, but I did say earlier, and I wanted to get to it, I wanted to talk about Exist briefly. Longest track you guys have ever put out, to my knowledge, in your career. Super complex, so many cool things happening. Neil deGrasse Tyson's on there. How do you begin to compose something at that scale? I imagine a lot of whiteboards were involved, or something like...
It wasn't that bad because we already had the blueprint. The blueprint was the Big Bang. And if you look at the Big Bang and how we believe, or the theories of how it happened and how the universe was very, very hot, and then it started cooling down, and you have all these phases that it goes through with radiation and all these different sorts of things. We're able to kind of look at all that in a timeline and say, well, what would the energy at the beginning of this sound like? And then when radiation comes and Earth is born, what would that sound like? And then so we were able to kind of follow that blueprint. And honestly, the first 7 minutes of that is just jamming, like jamming with Brooks and jamming with riffs, and like, oh, that feels like that. Okay, that's that. And it came really quick. The hard part was putting the vocals in during the Earth segment, because vocal melodies are always what are going to make or break something. So I think musically it was knocked out of the park until vocally we had to come up with something that felt like the humble beginnings of a planet that was going to have life on it. And then Neil was an idea after the Pale Blue Dot speech by Carl Sagan was like the inspiration to get someone like Neil or Bill Nye or someone that's in the science community that is a science educator to speak at the end of the record about the human condition.
Yeah, but you want that Neil voice. You want to get that.
I know.
That sweet dulcimer sciencey tone.
Yep.
You want to get that.
Totally. Well, it's such a iconic voice now for our generation. Like, people know Neil's voice, and he's everywhere now.
How far along was the piece when you brought him in to do his part? Did he hear any of the music beforehand? Did he get a chance? Did you guys see him for a little bit? Or
he wanted to hear it, and we sent him a demo, which I was kind of like shaky on, because I didn't want him to, I don't know how versed he is in knowing what demos sound like, as opposed to like a real track, like he could have said, well, this sounds like a mess. Like, we knew what was going on. Didn't necessarily think Neil was going to know what was going on. But then he gave me a call and he said, you sure you want me to speak for 3 minutes? John Lennon was able to write Imagine with just a few words. And I said, well, we're a little more, some more progressive thing. And I said, we've got this under control. We know what we're doing here. Like, we need it to be about 3.5 minutes. And he was all game.
That's kind of what you got to love about him, though. Even when we had him here at the old studio a little while ago, and we had an old logo, and one of the greatest moments that's ever transpired on this show, it happened backstage, where Neil deGrasse Tyson took out a Sharpie and on one of the walls in the studio proceeded to give a lecture for 15 minutes why our logo was unsound, because the circle was under the triangle, which is geometrically an unstable base, and this dude went in and like went into
That
like
is an
the
incredible
history
story.
of shapes. It was incredible. So I was gonna say, did he offer any like painfully honest critique or opinion? And it sounds like in the
He
first
did a little bit,
call,
yeah.
he did.
And by the way, we were going back and forth with him on what was going to be said, and he had some, he's like, well, I don't want to say this, and it's got to be my own voice, and it's like, yeah, great. And then so he wrote some stuff. We kept going back and forth, but you knew every time you sent him something, you were going to get some opinions back.
You actually have to beat him in a knife fight to play the guitar part.
I believe it.
That's on Wikipedia now.
All right, last question, because I thought it was follow-up while you were talking about vocal melodies, and I swear, we're going to audience, I promise. But do you outsource ideas and opinions when you're writing those difficult vocal melodies?
Every single part of every aspect of this band gets outsourced. Like, he doesn't just put whatever drums he wants on, and I don't put whatever vocal melodies, and Brian doesn't play whatever solos, and he doesn't play whatever rhythm part. It's literally...
But Johnny can play whatever.
But Johnny can play whatever he wants.
And that's
You're right.
why it sounds the
He's
way
the
it
king,
does.
Johnny.
He's the only
He's the
exception.
But no, we... every single aspect of a song is not written until everybody's stamp of approval is on it. It's not like, oh, randomly play whatever drums you want, and whatever solo you come up with is all good. No, it's...
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for indulging. All right, it is time. We're going to take our first question. Microphone, who has it? Where? Oh, right there. Awesome.
All right. So, firstly, I want to say thank you to you guys for doing this. It's amazing. Last night was about my 10th time seeing you guys. I've been a fan since sounding the 7th trumpet. You guys are absolutely phenomenal and bring it every single time. To the question, is there one song in particular that each of you prefer to play, or is your favorite song when bringing the noise live?
What do you think, Johnny?
Personally for me, my favorite song to play live is still "Little Piece of Heaven." It's been for a while, but it's just such a fun song, and we have you could see on stage, as you guys have probably seen, that we're just having fun when we're playing that song. It's got like the comical lyrics to it and everything, the fun, playful, and it still hits heavy and everything like that. So for me, I'd have to say "Little Piece of Heaven" is still the one that I have the most fun playing.
I think for me, I never get bored of playing Nightmare because the crowd response is always really good, and it's not a hard song to sing, and there's a lot of crowd participation. Some other songs that are bigger songs that we play a lot can either be tedious in certain levels, but I think Nightmare is cool because there's so much crowd participation, and maybe it's just not been out long enough. Maybe I'll reassess that answer, in a couple of years, but Nightmare for me.
I'll say goddamn.
It's because it's the shortest one, and he's
The
kinda
shortest
lazy.
one, and this is the shortest answer of this evening.
I think for me, particularly on this tour, being in stadiums, I've had a blast playing "Hail to the King" because there's so much space, and you can really hear how open it is, and it's perfect for a stadium. It's not too much going on in a short amount of time. Like, goddamn, it's a 10-minute song crammed into 4 minutes, and we just sped it up.
And it was Hail to the Queen last night for Mother's Day.
That's what it was.
Very
Well deserved.
apropos.
Happy late Mother's Day.
Next question is, who has the mic? Right here. Go ahead.
It's shaking here. Hey guys, my name is Liz Deathmiss. I've been a huge fan since forever. I guess since I was born, but nobody knew. But my dream is, to sing with you guys, but it's not gonna happen. But my question, my favorite song is "Angels" on this album, but I love all the songs. Oh my god. What's your favorite lyric of this album?
God damn.
God damn is a funny story. Yeah. My favorite lyric would probably be for "Exist" because I think I was able to say a lot with just a few words. Kind of took the Neil approach. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did write "Imagine" with very. So very few words, but it gives you a feeling of just detaching yourself from this planet and everyone, all your troubles, and you're able to kind of float up and just have very few words, which I think it's what every artist wants to kind of accomplish if they can.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't make you go back. You said "goddamn" has a funny story.
Yeah, when we were writing
Care to
that
share.
chorus, like I remember Brian was always going like, "Na na na na, goddamn," and he kept saying it, and he kept saying "goddamn," and I was like, "Dude, we got to use that," and he's like, "We have to use that because if we do, then we'll probably have tons of problems getting it played on the radio, and it's the stupidest decision we could ever make. So let's do it." So we did it, and now we're having tons of problems with radio programmers.
Brooks, do you have a favorite lyric?
When a boy becomes a man.
That was fucking awesome.
As the boy became.
Lyric wise,
As a boy.
You could let
Because
him
a
have it. You
man.
went as long as you could. It's that.
Now I know
The only
what he thinks,
reason
now I know what he thinks of me.
Because I have a set of 7-year-old identical boys, and one of them, Cash, runs around the house and sings that lyric on repeat, and that was the first thing that comes to mind. And if it sticks to a 7-year-old, there's something to be said about that.
I'm a big fan of the lyrics for the song "The Stage." I mean, I love the chorus. It's thought provoking. We're trying to be all grossed up. In fact, Johnny Christ, he's not wearing that hairstyle for a fashion statement. It's actually because it becomes more aerodynamic now that we're scientists.
This is true. This is the mission to Mars right here.
The science permeated throughout every aspect of the decision-making process.
very true.
Yeah, very cool. Regrettably, we have time for one more question. No pressure, but I believe it's right here.
Hi, thank you again so much for doing this. I'm another huge, longtime fan. I doubt that you guys have thought about this yet because you're still really behind the stage, but I was wondering, have you any ideas for your next album? And if so, do you think it'll kind of follow the same style of the stage, like kind of being, I guess, kind of proggy or something along those lines?
I really don't know.
We usually write pretty much in the moment what we're feeling when we go in and kind of focus in on that. So like we don't know what we're going to be feeling in a couple of years,
But what I love about having Brooks in this band is that it's opened up a whole new dynamic of things we can explore, and it's not like there's a lot to be explored. Let's just put it that way. And there's a lot of ideas and things that. Like when we got towards the end of this writing process, everything was coming so quickly and it was very fluid and there was a lot of stuff. And so I feel like getting to the next process, I'm really excited to see where that goes because this is our first record with him. I can't wait for number 2 and 3 and just see where that takes us.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, this is a hell of a jumping off point if you look at it that way. I mean, the album is one of my favorite, if not my favorite from you guys. I think it's fantastic front to back. And so thank you for that. Thank you for this. Thank you guys for your incredible questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't forget, if you don't have it already, The Stage, get it. These boys are on tour right now with Metallica, and then more tour news to come, I suppose, right? Like in the
Headlining
future?
tour in January and February.
There we go.
Come back.
February. They're coming back. Guys, one more time. Avenged Sevenfold.